In a relationship, when is honesty not the best policy? How do you balance what you want versus what you need? And is there something you need to say to your spouse but can't find the right way to say it? If so, then you're in the right place. This is the Lunch with Sandy podcast. With nearly 20 years of marriage under their belts, Terrence and Sandy Jackson discuss a range of topics, provide valuable insights on relationships, and talk about the conversations married couples need to have. So what does lunch have to do with all of this? Well, it's a metaphor for how these conversations originally started. Speaking of conversations, let's get one going. Here's your hosts, Terrence and Sandy.
Welcome to another episode of the Lunch with Sandy podcast, where we have the conversations that married couples need to have. I'm Terrence.
And I'm Sandy.
And today we're going to be continuing the conversation that we started during the last episode about the financial realities of being a parent. But as we do at the beginning of every show, before we get into the mix, we have to find out the answer to one burning question. Sandy, how are you today? True to form.
True to form. My one word answer. It's cold, so I'm unhappy.
I was going to say, I didn't ask for a weather forecast. And actually, today was not that bad of a day. Wasn't that cold today?
Until somebody forced us to eat lunch outside.
Well, I mean, you say that like it was me, but it wasn't me. And actually, in the beginning of that lunch, it was pretty nice. It's when the wind started to blow.
Yeah, it was nice.
That's when it started.
We're shopping outdoors, and it was actually quite pleasant.
Yeah, well, it was pleasant while you were shopping outdoors because you guys were spending money.
Well, that's the unpleasant part about it.
Yeah, listen, talk about the financial responsibilities. You guys were just burning it up out there, just making it rain.
Making it rain. That's right. That's
I spent a lot of money this weekend.
Yeah,
you did. You did.
Not me.
Well, I mean, listen, she couldn't do it on her own. She couldn't do it on her own.
True that.
So now that we found out that Sandy's cold or unhappy,
I'm unhappy because
whichever way
it's cold.
Whichever you want, way you want to put it.
Well, I ran yesterday. I got out the car and I had all this extra stuff packed. And I'm like, it's cold. And then she's like, you are not wearing that. She's like, you are going to warm up in a couple of minutes. And mind you, she was right. But I did not like that initial, I'm cold.
Yesterday was beautiful running weather. It was beautiful cycling weather, but it was also beautiful running weather. Both days, yesterday and today.
It was still in the 40s when we were in
beautiful running weather. You know, listen, I run right down to like 7-8 degrees.
I want summer back.
Well, you're going to have to move for that. Anyway, let's move away from the weather forecast.
Okay.
Because we got to get
a forecast. That's actually the past.
Well, we got the weather past. We got to get to what it is that we need to have a conversation about today. And as you know, we've been doing this for a while. And as time goes on, we begin to evolve. And, you know, I normally start each and every conversation after speaking to you about what it is that's going on with you. Yes. I normally start with the spotlight of the week, but I'm changing it up. I'm not changing up what I'm going to do, but I'm no longer going to call it the spotlight of the week.
Okay.
I'm going to call it bringing into the light. And today, what I want to bring into light is, you ready? Mm-hmm. I want to bring into the light. I want to bring into the light the Rhode Island Department of State.
Okay.
State agency under the Secretary of State's office. Last week, as you may or may not know, I sat in on a presentation they did for single member LLCs, and they did a presentation in conjunction with the Division of Taxation. And I must say that it was one of the most informative and at the same time easy to follow presentations that I've seen in a while.
Okay.
And I say all that while working for the Rhode Island Department of State. So I want to give a big shout out to Kristen, Gabby, and Maureen for the work that they put in for that presentation, and I will be following up because I've yet to take advantage of a number of the services that they offer for businesses. And as you know, we do have a business. And so the extra stuff that they do down there for people who are just starting out or need to plan for starting their business, I wanted to give a shout out to them and bring them into the light. Now, here's the point where things get a little different. Because normally,
gonna spice things up.
Well, normally I'm steering the ship. But today,
you like to be in control.
No, it's not that I like to be in control. It's just I'm always prepared, and sometimes
don't let him fool you.
Yeah. Well, here's where we're going to see whether or not I'm just saying this or not, because I am handing over control to you.
What? Me?
Yes, you.
Little old me.
Yes, we did this episode last week, and we talked about some things, and you wanted to expand on some of those things. And so, as they say, the floor is yours.
Well, no, you're right. Last week we spoke about the price associated with having children. And boy, is it a nice price tag that goes along with it. And essentially, being prepared for that and planning and things of that nature. So while we spoke about those things, I thought it would also kind of help provide some further insight and ideas that helped us when we were on our journey to see maybe if, other people.
You are so nice. I do think that's a great idea.
I try. So see, that's funny that you're saying that I'm nice because, when I take it to the dark side in probably a few minutes.
Well, listen,
just remember that.
You know what? I try to give you a layup, and you went and you swatted your own layup against the backboard.
I think I'm a nice person.
I think it's a nice idea to follow up and give some specifics based off the conversation that we had last week.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Again, I say the floor is yours.
Ah, yes. So I think as we're creating a budget, really, that's what it kind of comes down with. Comes down to is that the budgets are really important. Just even recognizing how much you're spending on things is important, even if you don't want to specifically follow a budget. So, I think step one is, plus I'm the nerd that works in numbers because I like math. It's
you are a nerd. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's collecting the data. I'm a data person, so step one, collect the data. So you have to figure things out. You have to figure out how much are you paying on bills, whether it's a monthly bill, it's a quarterly bill, an annual bill, not annually bill.
You see what happens when you start doing most of the speaking and some of the words that you want to say just don't come out the way that you want them to come out.
Yeah, no, you get tongue-tied for sure. So you need to just write it all down. And that's one of the things that we did. Of course, again, nerd over here. I did it in an Excel spreadsheet, but that's besides the point.
I do agree with writing it down, and she knows this. I don't know if an Excel spreadsheet is the best platform or the best way to actually
so many tools out there today at the time. And because I like Excel, my stuff is in Excel.
She's still rocking that Excel spreadsheet, and I hate it.
Excel. I do. I love Excel. I'm an Excel nerd. But at least I admit it.
Yeah.
Step one, admit your problem. I am an Excel
and your problem, it's Excel.
So anytime somebody makes a comment, I'm like, I can create a spreadsheet for that.
I will say, so when you decide what tool you're going to use, use one that's going to be beneficial to you. And what I mean by that is you don't want something that's going to complicate things where you're not going to use it to actually start tracking and documenting those things. So use whatever is, most beneficial for your lifestyle. I don't recommend a piece of paper.
I don't recommend a piece of paper either. But to each their own. There's no need to overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
Use something that's easy for you. But then outside of bills, there's still so many other things. So you got the the other necessities.
Or the other wants. But yeah, go ahead.
Originally I would call this like necessities because it's groceries.
Yep. Okay.
Trying to think of like what else is besides food and water. What else do you need?
Well, I mean, you got to put, there's certain expenses or bills, and there's a difference between expense and bills, but there's certain of those things that you have to actually take care of. And the one thing that, you mentioned food and things like that. And when it comes to me, I'm not a big coupon person, right? And I don't really look around, but it would be beneficial for you to know which market actually has the lower costs.
Yes.
And listen, if you got some of them coupons, use them.
Yeah, no, agreed. I had an app which allowed me to put in the price, and then I knew where to get that thing. But now you're getting ahead. So
no, I'm sorry.
We're still step one. We're still collecting the data.
Yes.
So then to your point, next is the discretionary spending, right? Mm-hmm. That is your clothing. And this is where I would categorize going out for dinner. Because while food is a necessity, grocery shopping is probably going to be cheaper than you going out, to dinner or lunch.
Depending on what country you're in. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Or, is it something that you like to go to the bar every week? I don't know. So that's your discretionary stuff. Yep. This is what I want to do. The other thing we did is we included how much we anticipated spending on holidays.
Yeah.
Birthdays as well. Kind of just lumped it all in together. Is anybody getting married? Is anybody having a kid? You're going to have to give gifts. You're laughing. You're like, no.
No. I wasn't laughing at that. I was laughing when you said, "Is anyone having a kid?" I'm like, what are you, psychic? When typically when someone's getting married, you get the invitation. But if someone's having a kid, sometimes they hold off on that. But that's the only reason why I was laughing.
True. But yeah, just to anticipate. So it's not knowing exactly, you have some things that come up every month, right? But then it's also trying to anticipate some future costs.
Yeah. Yep. I got you.
So, weddings and babies are not cheap. And usually, and then think about it, are you in the wedding? Or are you just attending the wedding? That's completely different. You might have to budget, $1,000 to be in a destination wedding or something versus, well, for men, it's also cheaper, which is horrible. But, if you're in a wedding and it's local, women were paying at least a couple $100 for a dress, right? And all the other fixings, plus the gift, plus everything. Anyways, not to digress, but having a roundabout idea, right? How much you're going to spend on that. And then last but not least, vacation. Just because you're on a budget doesn't mean you can't live. Yeah. Right. So, what is it that you're trying to spend on a vacation? And then I think that's kind of where you at least have an idea. Okay, if my income stays the same. Yeah. Your inputs and your outputs, right? If your income stays the same, these are all my outputs. Where do I even have flexibility? At that point, you really kind of need to look at it a bit.
Yeah. Now that makes sense.
Right. So once you have that, then it's trying to formulate your actual budget.
Let's get down to the nitty gritty.
Right. And that's the thing. You can't create something if you have nothing to start off with.
Yeah. You can't get something out of nothing.
Right. Yeah. So, I know that there are various budgeting tools and strategies. There's I would say the 50-30-20 is a very popular one. Mm-hmm. So that goes 50% on necessities, 30% on wants, 20% on savings and paying down your debt. So necessities are your bills, your food, your groceries. Your wants, though, is that going out to dinner, those clothes. Although, some clothes could be considered necessity, especially if you have children.
Yeah. You can't go to work in your birthday suit.
Right. So it's, trying to find that balance there too, right? But to be honest, when we were young and having kids, we didn't quite have the luxury of having like a 50, 30, and a 20.
Nope.
Nope. So, for us, it was more about planning out our year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that we didn't live paycheck to paycheck. Than it was like, oh yeah, this is the 50, this is the 30, and this is the 20. Like, this is how our income is being separated.
Well, that's the benefit of people being able to now, they say hindsight is 20/20, not 50/50, like you said. Well, the benefit now is now that you've had the opportunity to experience it and you know about these things, you can provide that information to those individuals who may now just be hitting that space where they're about to go through it, or they may not have known about this and they're in it and now they can take this information and actually utilize it.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think the first thing is that you just have to figure out what works for you. If it is doing like the buckets, if it is like we did back in the day, which is trying to just plan out the year, but also trying to plan out some cushion as well. So that when things did come up, it wasn't that big of a deal because we kind of had it planned for within I feel like our budgeting was more yearly and then monthly and paycheck wise. At least that's how I did it.
Yes, that's how you did it.
So
you would take that paycheck and break it up.
Right. Like, okay, this is how much we anticipate on spending on these things per year plus extra. Okay, well, what does that mean by month? And what does that mean for our paychecks? Okay, well, that means your first paycheck is going to this and that. And
yeah. Well, you said something that made sense, and it should make sense for everyone. And it was just a simple word: plan.
Yeah.
As long as you actually have a plan.
Right.
That you can follow and stick to. Mm-hmm. And if it works for you, then that's great. Because there's always the alternative, and that's not having a plan. And when you don't have a plan, you're not going to be able to stick to anything.
No, exactly. And that's, I think, also the primary reason to have it all written down. Because once you have it all written down, you might start seeing some spending patterns, right? That you just didn't recognize.
Yeah, because they're not in the forefront. Right. When something's habitual, right? You just do it.
Yeah. So, so that's kind of one thing of it, as well as like, right, you can't plan for something that you have no information on. Like, how do you even plan for that? So you might not even realistically realize how much you're spending on coffee per week.
I like to realistically realize. Listen, you spend a lot on coffee. Actually, you know what? Your numbers come down. Not to digress.
I've been doing more at home.
You know what's a lot cheaper?
Don't drink it.
Water.
No, I still need my coffee, but that's why I got my espresso maker last year. So yeah, and kind of like what I said, it's not like having a plan or having a budget doesn't mean you can't like live, right? So you have to just think about a reasonable amount.
Yes.
For like your discretionary spending, which is, if you want to put away this much towards your discretionary spending, then so be it. But just be realistic about it. Don't say, okay, every week I'm only spending $20. But yet I'm going to go out to dinner every night. Like that's...
Again, it depends on where you're going out to dinner.
Right. Listen, if you can make $20 last going out to dinner in today's day,
How much is a large pizza? That'll put you right around there.
Yeah.
Eh?
But that's one. I'm talking about like every day.
If you're one person and you have a large pizza
that you then split out every night.
Yeah,
no, but I'm talking about actually.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Going out. But yes, you're right. I go take out. I get the large plate.
Yeah.
Because then I have leftovers.
Listen, back in the day, there was a place called, you remember Pitos? Mm. You go get a $5 plate. That'll last you 2-3 days.
Yeah. I do remember some pizza. Are they even still open?
I don't know. I wouldn't go there now if they were. I don't know. Times have changed. Right. COVID put a lock on a lot of that stuff.
I know. That's so true, actually. But, your discretionary spending, you need to just be realistic about it. And I feel like, especially when it comes to like kids and clothes, depending on what age and what size your child is, in the beginning, they go through clothes like nothing, right?
Yeah.
When they're infants. Once they get older, they might not be going through it as fast, but then that's usually when they want the slightly pricier stuff.
Yes. The cost does go up. Their taste changes.
Yeah. Can't
For
get
instance,
pajamas, a full pajama for like $10.
Yeah.
And then obviously, lastly, you want to figure out how much you need to save, right?
Yeah.
So that's always the tough part. That's the one that makes it a little hard. But, there are ways to try to, I feel like, control certain habits.
Yeah. I mean, I think, when you're trying to figure out what you need to save, start with something that's comfortable for you. Mm-hmm. Because again, something is better than nothing. And as you start to look at your habits and as you start to go through all these things that you mentioned, when you're being realistic and you look at what's comfortable, that number may increase. Once you write all that stuff down and you get to the point where you start to realize, wow, I am spending a lot of money on whatchamacallits. And I mean the actual candy bars. No, but they're slamming. But once you start looking at that stuff that, you've written down, now you can say, okay, well, whether you're not, you don't have to be doing the 50, 30, 20 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just what's comfortable for you. Mm-hmm. And you look at that, you start putting that away, and then you can always adapt and increase that or decrease that, however you see fit.
Well, and that actually applies to everything too. Like, think about it. Like, you start writing it down and then you start looking at it. Wow, I pay for 4 streaming services, but I never use this one. So, you're able to just kind of like write that off. Like, all right, let's just cancel that one to save some money,
Yep.
So it's definitely, you just gotta look at it.
Yes. And listen, it sounds simple.
I know.
You do have to look at it.
Right.
Because that is a very important thing that you just mentioned, particularly about the streaming service. I looked, we use all of them. But anyway, but the point is, I actually did that. And then when I said, okay, well, this one, and I started, wait a minute, no, this is where I watched this. But when you start looking at this stuff and you realize, well, this is a waste.
Yeah. And that could be money that I'm saving.
Yes.
Even if it is you said, something's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Even if it is $20 on that one streaming service that you barely ever use and you're not going to even notice a difference not having it.
Yes.
Like, just cancel it.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Put it in an account.
Save that money.
Save that money.
Save that money for baby. I bought baby back.
Oh, goodness. Baby. So then just, I feel like once you have it all written down, then you can start looking at what you can cut costs. Then you can then you can figure out what, like how we did. Like I said, this is kind of our annual plan, Actually, one of the things I forgot, if you plan on giving to charities too, I also work that in as well, because we always wanted to give something back, right?
Yeah, we give a lot back.
Well, now we give a lot more than we did back then.
Yes, that's true.
But we always wanted to give something. So I even planned for that.
Yes.
And then it's, right, like figuring out what works for you. Is it just bucketing it out, or is it like, ours, I think, was a little bit more intense of a budget. Like I said, it was literally.
We had a tight budget.
We did. But I mean, it was like planned out down to the paycheck too.
Yeah.
Like, and by the paycheck, we also knew how much was going towards bills, how much was the discretionary, and how much we were saving. So it was all worked in.
I laugh at it because we talk about looking at it.
Very OCD.
Listen, let me tell you something. You were watching everything back then.
Yeah.
I mean, you were watching everything. I remember I would go to the cafe and I'd get like a muffin, and you'd be like, "Did you buy something at the cafe today?" I'm like, "God damn it, I bought a muffin."
Not that bad.
Listen, Listen, there were a couple times when you was like, did you? Because I never use
Well,
the
that
debit
actually
card.
kind of brings me to kind of the next key point, right? Like, what's some of those other just ideas outside of just budgeting, right? Like little things that worked. Cash is king.
Cash is king.
And that
That's
was
true.
the thing. You had your spending cash. You had your discretionary money. It was cash. So why are you using the debit card?
Because listen, sometimes when you give me $2 for discretionary funds, inflation, even back then, you couldn't get nothing with $2. And remember, I never carried cash. I used to never. I mean,
I know.
I was just cash is king, but I just never carried it.
But that is actually one of the things that also works. Like,
Yeah.
give yourself your discretionary money in cash.
Yep.
And once it's gone, it's gone. Like, that's it. You're done. You're cut off. No more muffins. For you.
Yeah, I didn't buy that many muffins though, and that's the thing. If I was buying muffins every day, it'd be one thing. But it'd be one of those situations where, and for me, you got to keep this in mind. For me, I have dietary restrictions.
Yes, you do.
So sometimes it's like, yo, if I forget to bring lunch, look, I just can't go anywhere. So I might have to grab a muffin because that's all I can have.
No.
Don't deprive me of my muffin.
All right. So you're out of cash. You really wanted to do lunch, but you know what? Now you're packing an at-home lunch because you've already used up your budget.
And ain't nothing wrong with peanut butter and jelly. It'd be slamming.
No, it ain't.
If you make it the right way, get on those PB&Js.
Yes. Strawberry jelly.
I don't know about that, but anyway.
So, we'll stick to the food theme. Something else that worked for us. We kind of got away from it, although I'm trying to bring it back, which is creating our weekly menu of what we were going to cook. And then when I went grocery shopping, I stuck to the list.
Yes. Now, that is very important because the only person who does not stick to the list when they go grocery shopping is you. You know why?
Because I'm on the grocery shop.
Bingo! Bingo!
But no, so this takes preparation as
Yes.
well.
No,
So
it does. It does.
Because it's not just being like, oh, I'm going to go grocery shop and I think I'm going to cook this, this, and this. And this is what would happen is I would buy like food and then sometimes we wouldn't cook it. So having that weekly menu was also recognizing, oh, Tuesday, there's this school event. There's no way I'm going to make a big meal.
Yes.
So we're going to just have like either leftovers or whatever, chicken patty in the toaster oven.
Tomorrow I'm doing spaghetti and sausage.
Some nice noodles, like something quick. So it's not anything I had to buy like perishable food for, and that would be sometimes the issue was the over shopping. So by creating that weekly menu, having the grocery list based on exactly what ingredients you needed for the week, it helped cut costs because we also weren't buying extra food than we were later throwing away.
And to tag one other thing onto that, and this actually, there's truth behind this. Don't go shopping when you're hungry.
Yeah.
Because you end up picking up.
Yes.
You end up picking up all these different things because you're hungry and it's not on the list, and you just start throwing your stuff in the carriage, and that stuff adds up.
Yeah. So you have to stick to the list.
Yes.
So, to your point, don't go shopping when you're hungry. Stick to your list. Don't get tempted to stray because, as you're walking down and then you're like, all I can think about is like Family Guy. Ooh, piece of candy.
Yeah. Ooh, piece of candy. Well, and the thing about all of this is, when people hear this, what they want to understand is this is going to put you in a better position when you start talking about where you are financially. And sometimes, the mindset is, oh, well, I want this. Yeah. And I should be able to get it. And there's some truth to that, but there are other things that you actually want that you should be able to get.
Right.
And this is going to help you get those things.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, I want this and I should be able to get it. But is it really worth it also?
True.
Or putting that money away for your vacation, is that a better want? So it's also about prioritizing like what it is that you really want. So hence it's first kind of really assessing needs and wants. And then once you have that under control and you really recognize the difference,
Yeah.
I might want this Reese, but do I need it?
I think we all can use a little bit of Reese's in our lives.
No, most of them, yeah, definitely. All right, do I need all 6 of these Reese's?
Yes, there you go.
Can I just settle for one?
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and then honestly, something that worked for us too was having separate savings accounts. Like we had not like
separate we had
savings accounts. Yeah, we still do. Not me and you separate.
Yeah, all right. Listen, you want to clarify that. You want to clarify that. I'm like, wait a minute.
I was going to. So separate savings accounts for what you're using the money for.
Yes, okay.
So we had a vacation savings account.
Yep.
Right? That just accrued for that. We had not the good old-fashioned Christmas club that they give you all the money. But we had a separate holiday savings. And obviously what worked well with that is having just the recurring transfers that as soon as we got our paycheck, the money transferred out. So we never even really had to do anything for it to happen. And then for a while there, I think limited those savings accounts where you couldn't take money out of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You could only put money into it to kind of just help temptation.
Yeah, well, and you know what worked with that too? I never go to the bank.
No, you don't.
So from the perspective of if the money's in there, I'm not touching it.
Yeah.
Because I don't go to the bank. I don't go to the ATM.
Nope.
So
I know. Well, and that's one of the things that can get people in trouble too is the credit card situation.
Yeah.
So I think there was even one point where all we'd put on the credit card, and then we reversed this, and then I think we've kind of been going back to it. The only thing we put on the credit card was the necessities, like the grocery shopping, any bills we could run through it. Because
you know what kills that right now? What really killed that? Mm-hmm. Amazon.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what really killed it.
Because it's so easy to go into a store on Amazon and just put in your credit card number.
And when you think about it, it's inexpensive, but it's not, because that one piece is inexpensive, but you don't stop at one piece.
Right.
You're like, this is only $20. And you do it 5 times. Not the same thing 5 times, but.
Right. So, right. And so it can get a bit out of control.
So stay off Amazon.
Yeah. Because you also need to pay that credit card bill off every month. Because then that's going to work against you if you're carrying a balance and paying those interest charges on it.
Yeah, and I think one of the smart things that we did, and not to go too left with this, but having the different credit cards for the different purposes.
Yes. Yep. So not only did we have the different savings account for different purposes, we also had the different credit cards. Mm-hmm. And that helped us manage, too, what we were spending discretionally. Because at the time we weren't just using cash. And I still call you about that. Did you make this Amazon purchase?
I'm like, huh? What you talking about?
And honestly, we still use this one today just because it's convenient.
Ain't nothing wrong with convenience.
So if other people have natural gas, sometimes you can call your gas company and create a budget plan with them.
Yeah.
And so they actually, based on how much you spent in like the last 12 months on gas, they will calculate what your budget is monthly.
Yeah.
Because, here in the Northeast, you have like no gas bill in the summer. And then you have the huge ones in the winter because of the heat. So me personally, I rather know every month how much I'm going to pay versus paying $500 one month.
Well, that
and 20 over.
Yeah, and what that does is it gives you consistency from the perspective of what you need to budget for.
Yep.
And so you're not getting that surprise where you get, and this is real, a $300-$400 gas bill.
Probably
in
higher
the
these
winter.
days.
Maybe Yes. Inflation is a mother. Anyway, so that gives you that consistency where now you're able to actually realistically budget out what it is that you actually need and plan for.
Right. And by calling the gas company, you don't have to do any of that. They do it for you.
Yeah.
And they reassess it every year as well.
Yeah.
Like, so if it's, warmer weather, the only downside is, if you're using a lot more heat than the prior year, because you're like, oh yeah, this budget plan works out well. Let me start making it warmer in my house.
Well, here's the thing. And here's another tip for that. What you should do is get the programmable thermostats.
Yes.
That you can set to turn the heat on to specific temperatures when you're actually home and have it go down for when you're not home and at night. And you put those in, and that actually gives you an opportunity to control how much actual gas you're using or whatever you're using for a heating source.
Yeah, I honestly didn't think of that one because I figured by now everybody had programmable ones.
Yeah. Unfortunately, not everybody does.
Right, but yeah, that's like a simple quick fix.
Yeah. Well, so I know it was 2019, but when I redid Forest Avenue, they had the knob. They had the mercury joints. I didn't think those things were still around. If you got mercury in your thermostat, time to change.
Yes.
Upgrade. But
you're right, because you can also program it to be nice and warm when you get home.
Yep.
Versus you trying to turn it down during the day, and then when you get home, you're shivering at home because you're waiting for it to kick on.
Or you like it warm, and so you leave it up when you leave the house, and you burn all that fuel, burn all that money, just so when you come home, it's toasty in here.
Yeah. Or you can even go old school too. This I picked up from my dad, which was he would make something in the oven.
And then leave I knew you were going to say that. I was shaking my head saying, don't say oven. Don't say oven.
It's cold out. So you know what? We're going to bake something today.
Yeah. And then leave the oven door open.
Yeah, let that heat keep the kitchen warm. So not only are you making yourself something tasty, but then you're also heating the home.
Who knew you were going to get some baked goods out of having a conversation about the financial realities of raising kids?
Right.
It just goes to show you never know what you're going to learn.
I know that. Yeah, right. Exactly. And there's got to be so many other things out there that we haven't even thought of, or that we may have forgotten that we even implemented. But I think we hit the majority of them.
No, I think I think there were a lot of good points that you made. I think that people just got to start thinking about what it is that they're actually doing. And from that perspective, understanding what those costs are, and then coming up with a plan and then sticking to it. I mean, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I guess the only other one I didn't think of sooner, but we did kind of touch upon it, which was like vacation. I feel like we did like a staycation one year and then a vacation the next year, and flip-flopped it so that we didn't feel like we were always having to worry about spending troves of money on vacation as well. Yeah. But I'm sure plenty of other people have lots of tips and tricks too that they did.
Yeah. So the short of it is, understand what it is that you have to actually put in that plan. Mm-hmm. Come up with that plan. Stick to that plan.
And find a plan that works for you.
Yes. And find something that actually works for you. And now that you have the tools that you need to come up with this plan, it's time for my realization of the week. Because we're getting to the end of this episode. We're getting to the point where we have to wrap up. And my realization this week is sometimes you have to learn to find the opportunity in the difficulties and the challenges that you face every day. Sometimes it's learning to adapt. Sometimes it's being innovative about finding a solution. But ultimately, if you can do this, you'll be stronger for it. That being said, that's it for this week's conversation. Please be sure to follow and leave feedback on your favorite podcasting app. Thank you for listening. Be sure to join us for the next conversation.
That's it for this week's episode of the Lunch with Sandy podcast. Thanks for listening. We'd love to hear your feedback and comments on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Lunch with Sandy. And be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to rate and review us. Thanks again for listening to the Lunch with Sandy podcast.